I am joined today on Between the Levees by Ross Clark, Sales and Business Development for Basin Fleeting. Ross, thank you very much for joining me.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure.
I know you've seen the show before. You know how this goes. Please begin with where were you born?
I was actually born in Franklin, Louisiana, even though I've grown up my whole life here in Morgan City, Berwick area.
And where is Franklin compared to where you are?
It's about 20 minutes towards Lafayette from here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
And
little small town.
you were born there. When did y'all move over to Morgan City? Or are you in Berwick?
So I'm in Morgan City now, and I grew up my whole life in Berwick. Went to Berwick, elementary all the way through high school, and I never lived in Franklin. I think that was just the closest hospital my mom could get to at the time. I was ready to, hit the ground running.
Tell me about your early academic career.
Well, to be honest, in high school, I really wasn't too worried about what I was going to do outside of that. But once I graduated, I just got this fire under me, and got really interested in the family business and went to Nichols and did the management program there with a maritime concentration, which was pretty cool. It has some industry professionals come in and speak to you, give you a brief overview of like the offshore market and what an OSV is and stuff like that. And after that, I kind of was actually going to Nichols while stepping into a leadership position at Basin, which was a unique experience for me because I was able to go to school and then right outside of school come right into the office and try and apply what I learned. I learned a lot doing that, and I learned a lot on the way to Nichols. It's about 45 minutes away, and I listened to business books the whole way there and the whole way back.
Tell me the story of Basin. This is your father's company?
Yes, sir. My dad, Mike Clark, started it in 1993. And before that, his mom, my grandma, had Basin Offshore, well, Basin Marine, and she came from Black Towing, which was an older company back in the 70s. And from what I understand, when that company started to sell off its assets or close down, my grandma did such a good job, long-term bookkeeper for the company. He actually gifted her a tug, and from that one tug, she kind of grew it with my dad into 9 offshore and inland tugboats and towboats. Yeah, we used to do all the assist work before it was even required here. It's a pretty interesting story, but once the 80s kind of happened with that downturn, we had to sell off the boats and we diversified. That was my dad's, idea to diversify away from the vessel side of things and into the fleeting. And we've been doing fleeting and barge loadouts ever since.
Before we get too far ahead, does your mother work? Is she part of the business?
So my mom actually passed away last year. She had COPD and emphysema, lung transplant, all that stuff. Uh, but she got her master's degree in child psychology from LSU, and she was always working at the centers here. So she took a different direction with her career.
And were they married when your father started Basin?
Yes, they were married. They got divorced when I was 12. But before that, uh, when everything, was being formed, and it's actually Basin's incorporation date is March 12th, technically 1993. And I think he was trying to do it on my birthday because it was March 11th. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that till, I got into more details here. But yeah, they divorced, and but they had a great relationship. It didn't really affect me at all. They were cordial and nice and friends afterwards. And so my mom really raised me, and I just visited with my dad, whenever I could.
What was life growing up in Morgan City? And how were you? I guess were you aware of the business? Were you paying any attention to any of that growing up?
I my dad brought me here to the fleet. He let me drive, messing around in his lab with some of the, forklifts and stuff and all of that. But it was just kind of out of my world, of worrying at the time. I was really just trying to be a kid, I guess. But growing up in Morgan City, I would say as a lifer here, you either love it or you hate it. If you like to fish and hunt and ski and all that good stuff, it's the perfect place. And I was fortunate to have a really good, childhood, in my opinion. I got to spend a lot of time on the water. I fished and liked to wakeboard and stuff like that growing up. And that's pretty much, what I did growing up. Nothing else really.
Right. Well, tell me, after college, you joined the company. How does your career develop? And I guess, have you taken any control? Is your father still involved?
My dad he's still the owner and but he's basically retired. He's hands off. He doesn't want to get in the way, you know, and that's kind of where he stands. We bring him in with certain decisions and all of that good stuff, but yeah, that's pretty much where he is. I forgot what was the original question?
Well, I guess just the history and development
The
of the business, how it grew from '93 to when you arrived.
Sure. So my dad, he went to LSU as well, and he had a good fraternity buddy there, Tom Dowie, who was the VP of Canals Deck Barge Division. And that's, between him and Mr. Louis, I think they just set everything up and we're now one of their largest fleeters for their offshore and major, construction barges. And we really did that for years and years. And when I finally took a leadership position, it was really a sink or swim type environment, and I just had to figure it out. And uh, it was a interesting business for me because it's just at the time all we did was fleet deck barges, which if you know the maritime industry, traditional fleeting doesn't normally involve this many large, abnormally, sized deck barges. It's usually like the regulation 135s, all of that stuff. And I mean 195, I'm sorry. And so to give you an idea, our fleet can fit 90 hopper barges regulation size, but we can only really hold 30 of these deck barges. So they're not very efficient to fleet, but we're in the right place for them to do, for ideal construction projects. And it took me a while to figure out, how to open up the South Fleet into more traditional fleeting. And that's really what the South Fleet did. That really opened up a lot of the traditional fleeting in and outs and all of that for the Kirby's and Ingrams and Enterprise. A lot of these companies, they fleet short term with us, and that was a big aha moment for me, at least, in figuring everything out, because I really had to call people around the industry and just kind of ask, well, how do you run your fleets in Mississippi, in the river? And luckily the industry's, filled with a lot of people that don't mind reaching back and helping other people figure things out. And that's really how I figured out most of Basin. And from there we went into really trying to expand on the boat side. We have the Basin Endeavor, which does the assist work and all of that during high water. And I wanted to get another vessel and kind of start up the Basin Marine side again. And in 2019 we actually were able to get a contract and get it going with Cooper Marine. And that worked out great. But I always joked my dad and the old timers, they kind of always talk about the oil and gas heydays, you know, just so much work, nobody knows what to do. And I really feel like I'm bad luck for this industry, because all I've known is, the 2015 downturn, uh, you know, subchapter M and COVID. You know, so I haven't seen any heyday yet, but I definitely enjoy what I do and enjoy um, the maritime industry. I think it's just absolutely fascinating. And even the assist work, you know a lot about the assist work. And it's a very unique aspect of our business, because it's not really, our core business is high water cannot be there sometimes the whole year. But I definitely enjoyed watching Lieutenant Tim on your last episode. I consider him a good friend and worked with him very closely when he was at the MSU Morgan City branch. And, just the whole combination of how the Coast Guard and the assist boat companies work together during high water to, kind of enforce and help the Coast Guard manage their restrictions was all a whole new world to me as well. And I really loved it, because I think it's a great example of, military branches working with, operators like us, and actually making a good, big difference, in my opinion. And yeah, after the assist work, um, and doing the kind of South Fleet, opening it up and everything, I'm actually, now that I have, a new general manager, I'm really focused on expanding the loadout side of our business. We're doing some, with these deck barges that we outfit and put the grillage and all of that stuff on there. They're used for heavy marine construction projects. And, you know, we're in an ideal location. We're 18 miles, as the crow flies to the Gulf. And anything that's doing any company doing heavy construction offshore works great from here. And I'm interested in trying to push for the wind farm stuff. We outfitted a barge a while back for doing the Wind One project, and we'll do the grillage, and then they'll ship the barge to the East Coast, where they'll actually load it out and everything. But yeah, that for me, really just that resourcefulness is what I really gained, in being able to step into a leader, having the blessing and you know, luckiness to even be able to step into a position here. It really showed me what experience and, being resourceful can do for you when trying to manage a company and grow it. There's so many factors that pop up, and if it was easy, I would say I've learned that everyone would do it, and there's a reason few make it, and it's because it's a difficult world to be in.
Do you have siblings in the business?
I had my sister. I have one older sister, Alex, and she used to run the accounting department. She decided to go, to a different business and kind of start her own career and do her own thing. And but I really enjoyed working with her. We made a good team, and it was really just me and her in here for a while, making it happen, and then I got slowly built the team out, and I've been fortunate to find some really good people that really just make the company look good. Because if there's one thing I've learned, an employee can exponentially make a company better, or vice versa, completely do just as much damage if they don't do their job. And so it's given me a really deep appreciation for the people that work for us, because they make the company work. They're the gears. And also, that reminds me, when I was stepping into a leadership position, I was 23. So I really built, rapport with everyone here by starting with, I don't know anything, but I do know we all same team, and I need your help, with the boats or the repairs, and so it really kept me humble and uh, always kind of leading with, whoever I'm speaking to, they're the experts, and we're all just kind of building that team culture and things like that. It was all just I swear the last 10 years, I don't know where they went because it's just went by so quick. And it's been a really fun ride. And I look forward to seeing, what we're going to be able to get off the ground in the future. We've got some really good opportunities coming up.
Well, speaking of employees that carry your business, tell me a little bit about Larry. Where'd you get him from, and just what does
Oh
he do
man.
for you?
So when I was, it was almost like we've been here forever, since 93, but when I came on, we were kind of rebuilding, the team and trying to push for some growth, and uh man, I begged Larry for months trying to get him to come take over the fleeting side because I was having to manage the company, manage the boat, and do the fleeting and dispatching, and it's just hard to wear all those hats. And I knew I needed somebody, and my father-in-law, Charlie Beza, he works for Secor Marine, and I asked him if he knew anybody that he trusted and that could do a good job, and he led me on to Larry. And after that, I just bugged him and begged him. He came and looked at the facility, and he was very cautious about everything. And again, being a smaller company, if they don't know who you are, you really have to. It's like selling the business to the employee as well. They have to believe in the leadership, the vision, the opportunities that the company has moving forward. And so I learned a lot about selling the company, not just to people, but I mean to customers, but to people. And it was funny because Larry, when he first came over, he was at Intratug, and I don't know how many boats they have, but they have more than Basin. I think they have 9, something like that, or 6. And
They just acquired DeLoach, so they have added
okay,
more. I think
okay, gotcha.
total countrywide, I think they're at 30 something.
Wow, okay,
Correct.
so they're growing.
Yeah.
That's cool. But he told me that he would be bored. That was kind of his main, he might be bored here. And I felt like when he said that for the first time, like, am I doing something wrong? Because I'm not bored. I feel overworked and, being on call all the time. It just felt like, well, maybe it's just hard for me at the time. I remember thinking it. And then, when he finally made the decision to come over, I spent a few months with him, walking him through how we do things. And he happened to come on right, when the high water of 2019 came in to the Berwick Bay, which is just the most high water we've ever had. I think it lasted over a year. It just never ended. And so during high water, we're very busy. And, he found that out really quick. And because it's not like traditional boat work, it's like each job is its own individual invoice, own boat log, everything. And so it's not like on autopilot with some of these guys where it's basically a daily log sent to the customer. But I can say, I always joke, if you know I had 9 Larrys, I could take over a small country because the man works. It's what he does. He loves it. He likes being here. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better manager for Basin for sure.
Maybe I'll catch him on this show one of these days.
Oh yeah, he would be a character for sure.
Yeah. Well, getting back to something you had said, of course, avoiding anything too contentious of recent years, but you said y'all were doing the assist work before it was needed, and it was a bit of a story there that you bypass. Tell me that one.
Yeah. So, interesting enough, the train bridge here in Berwick, Morgan City area, it was at one point one of the most hit bridges in the United States, and which is unique because we're in Little Morgan City, where it's like a blind spot for a lot of people, but during high water, you have three bridges to navigate through, and when you get through, if you're going southbound to get through the train bridge and actually make the train bridge prevents most tows from being able to turn when they should. So that's where the assist comes in a lot of times for at least high water, where it's just shoving you into the to the uh, to the bank. And so that spurred the VTS zone. It's a federally mandated, vessel traffic system ran by the U.S. Coast Guard, and that's how I met Mr. or Lieutenant Tim, and we work very closely with them. But the bridges at first, I don't, I'm not a expert historian in the original bridges and what was on them, but I'm pretty sure the moonlights, the lights to help guide them and everything, my dad played a role in working with the Coast Guard and setting up. It's kind of how Basin got its start for a while. Is we did all the assist work through the bridges at one point. I mean, all of it, and our biggest customer was actually Hollywood Marine, which I thought was interesting because I think at the time Kirby bought them, they were actually bigger than Kirby, which I always find things like that inspiring, to be honest. Um, but yeah, we did tons of assist work through here. That's really, to the best of my knowledge, how we got our start in a lot of areas here, and how we're known as well. I mean, honestly, every tow, there's so many tows. I think the volume, like Tim said, not in aggregate or commodities, but the sheer volume of tows, those boats coming through here is, what did he say? Like one of the
Second,
highest areas.
second
Yeah.
most in the country.
I don't know the statistics, but I believe it because, it's crazy. They had someone just run into the old 182 bridge. They had a spud barge and the spuds hit the bottom of the bridge, and the sheriff's department was kind of letting everybody know the bridge is closed. But it's just mind-boggling to me that so many people here either know and completely are immersed in the maritime industry, or some don't even know what river they're crossing over, and there's a whole world of things that go on, underneath them as they commute to their jobs. And uh, it's pretty fascinating. But back to the moonlights, and the assist work, from everything that I've been brought up learning, and knowing, it's really most just like the subchapter M's and all the regulations. Most of the time they're written in blood, in a sense that, there was so many accidents going on in this area. It actually spurred the, BTS zone being placed here. And I mean, it's still here, and I can't imagine what the waterway would look like here if these tows just had. I'm assuming now, the majors, like a Kirby, they would mandate it themselves if it wasn't already here, just to mitigate the risk.
Right. Well, what does the future look like for Basin? Did you say there's kind of more opportunity possibly offshore?
Yeah, for me, we just bought Beers Island, which is right across from us, and it's going to provide us 2.2 miles of waterfront to fleet on here. So step one, has always been expand the fleeting, because we kind of depended on how busy the waterway is. We'll get, at capacity, and we'll have to turn away tows, which we don't want to do that. So and I got Beers Island. Everyone here, kind of knows that people and very easily, and I get asked the question a lot: how did I manage to purchase it? And the same way I got Larry to work here. I found out through the assessor site who owned it. Some old, I guess, banking family owned it, and I just got the guy's number, started talking to him, and aggravated him for a year. He stopped answering my phone, and I started calling his lawyer and aggravating his lawyer. And eventually, I guess I was just there when they decided they needed to sell it, or for whatever reason, and we bought it. And that is a big step for us in the direction that I'm wanting to go. I think I'm going to take a break from the boats for a minute and only focus, for the first time since I've been here, I'm only focusing on heavy project cargo, barge loadouts, heavy marine construction. We work so well with the heavy haulers all the way up to the feed and, feed companies. Like, I don't know if you know the feed, acronym, but it's front end engineering and design. So it's like the McDermott's, Saipem, uh, all the majors that they'll help build these plants for Chevron, and we have relationships with all of them, right down to the survey companies. We have an amazing, going on 30-year relationship with Canal Barge. Uh, we work so well with their operations team. It's like we're the same company. We know what they're gonna want, and vice versa with the feed companies and heavy haulers like Mammut or Berard, Barnhart, Edwards. We just have contacts with all of them, and uh, we have really built a niche here for us. We're not we're considered, I guess, a shipyard, but we're also a barge fleeting company, with a boat, so we're really an all-in-one facility, and it's really showing its efficiency now that I'm focused on the barge loadout side, because I've been pushing the whole streamline your loadout. But what I've noticed is the communication between these companies is key, because there's so many little moving parts, and if you don't have someone on the ground who knows, how to do the job, communicating to every part of the puzzle that gets these major plants built, it can set you back a lot. And so future wise, I'm really wanting to get into more wind farm stuff. I know they opened up or just started the leasing for wind farms in the Gulf. We're a perfect position to help with those loadouts. And I really, Secor, they have these two buildings in Patterson that I purchased maybe 2 years ago. They're perfect for fabrication and machine work. I wanted to put some CNC machines in there and do some prefabricated parts and small parts in, manufacturing. And to be honest, I'm really pushing to start hopefully manufacturing small, or not small, but components for these wind farms. I think it would be ideal, and we're positioned well for it. So I'm really just trying to get the word out, that I know we joke with Canal sometimes, because we just recently in the past couple of years started pushing, what we do here, because a lot of times we're able to just hand it off to Canal. They do a great job, but then what we were finding is their customers are technically our customers. So we needed to let their customers know, how great we are, and let them know that, we're an integral part to making their project go efficiently and smoothly. And once we started doing that, everyone would, it was surprising how many people said, "Oh, I thought y'all were a Canal owned or something." And I joke with them because it's like we're kind of Canal's best kept secret. Uh, and so that's really what I've been really enjoying doing, the sales and business development. It's honestly, I don't know about the social media posting and all of that stuff, but I love talking to customers and digging into what what we could do to be better. What is the blind spot in their market that they're not getting from, say another basin somewhere. And I love that aspect of it. And, so I'm loving it so far. And, for me, that's really where we're going with, in my opinion, the next 5 years. Hopefully we'll have another boat. We're sub chapter M, compliant. We've got the Endeavor sired. But for the most part, we have opportunities with boats. We have opportunities to build barges. We're not set up to build barges, and it's really we're going to get out of our niche. But for me, the hardest part is figuring out which direction to run in, because I definitely am a blue sky thinker and think anything's possible. And I just feel like we're set up to do really anything in this industry we want to do. It's just finding the best place to create the most value for everyone here. And for me and the company right now, it's doing barge loadouts for these heavy marine construction projects, and handling the assist work, and continuing to do the barge fleeting. I'd love to get another spot, right in the river up the Port Allen route. I think the combined value of a fleet here and right on the other side, in the river, would be great, because I've always had ideas of cutting that leg of the trip out, that logistical portion of the path of, these companies bringing tows down that are going to go west, and vice versa. I think that's a good next step for us, or another fleet further west towards Texas. Those are all great opportunities, but I think for now, I'm really just focusing on building the biggest moat I can around Basin. And what really helps me is I read that book, The Hedgehog, Method, and I forget the author, but it really stuck with me that, and because in this industry, everyone is huge, for me at least, looking at how am I going to compete with these boat companies that have, Intratug, last I checked, had 6. Now they got whatever, 30. It's hard for us to get our leg in the door with certain jobs like that. But so to get me to kind of pull back and rethink the strategy is, what can Basin be the best in the world at? Well, we're the best in the world currently at fleeting and doing barge loadouts off the, intercoastal waterway at the confluence of the Chapelai River and the intercoastal waterway. We're the gateway to the West. And so my job now is to focus on making sure everyone knows it and to build that moat. That's really that actually created a lot of peace of mind for me, because at one point I went through my career really going in every direction, and I really learned out of necessity to pull it back and start focusing more on one direction and the overall value it'll create for the company.
All right. Well, looking forward to seeing what happens there for you. But let's switch topics from business to family. I know you're married. How long have you been married?
I've been married since 2015, and I absolutely love it. I truly believe every person has, a table that makes them up with 4 legs, and those legs are what, you consider to make, what everyone envisions themselves. I envision myself as a family man, hard worker, responsible, and without my family, I don't know what I would not make it, for sure. My wife Elena is absolutely the CEO of our family, and I can truly say she's made me who I am today, for sure. She always she hates business, so I can't talk to her about anything here, but I always bring up big decisions here to her, because her mind's just not cluttered with all the stuff I got bouncing around up here. and she has a real uncanny ability to shoot straight right through all of the noise and tell me something that's, I'm just like, well, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why I wasn't thinking of it, but and so she's my rock and keeps me level headed and definitely keeps me on my toes. And so do my two little girls. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. My 8-year-old is Zoe and my 6-year-old is Nova, and they keep me firmly wrapped around their fingers for sure. I'm not the disciplinarian in the household. I'm more of I think I got that from my mom. She spent a lifetime counseling kids and stuff, and she had a very high empathy level for most people. And I can't help but when they get fussed at, I'm immediately thinking, oh, but they didn't mean it, or they just aren't thinking they're kids. But at some point, you got to put your thumb on them, and that's where Elena comes in. But yeah, that's pretty much all I do. I love my in-laws. I'm blessed to have in-laws that are like my family now. I consider my father-in-law my biggest kind of role model, and he's built such him and his dad, Charlie Sr. They built such a great reputation in the marine industry. They're so well known. Um, just I've gotten opportunities just by people knowing that he's my father-in-law, which has went a long way. And luckily enough, he's this 6'5" monster that is the nicest, most down-to-earth guy I know for sure. And my mother-in-law is just as great. She's like my mother now. They've all been I've just been blessed for real. I just really feel like I'm lucky to even I hit the lottery with my family and my in-laws. I mean, I hear so many stories of people that just they don't get along. I don't have that problem whatsoever. So
Well, what is their story in the marine industry?
don't quote me on it, but I do know see so my father-in-law's dad, Charlie Sr., it's funny because they call him Big Charlie, and my father-in-law, Little Charlie, even though it's the opposite, 165 and the other one's, 5'11" maybe. But Charlie Sr. worked for, man, they're gonna kill me for not knowing this. I want to say like the Joe McCalls or if you know Secor, the guy that's involved with a lot of their boats and vessels are named after their family. But Graham, maybe it's Graham Golf. And back in the 80s and 70s, the oil market and especially the offshore side, that was really the crazy heyday of just money flying around everywhere. And I guess you would call him grandpa-in-law, little Charlie, my father-in-law's dad, he really came up in that industry. He would be a great person to talk to about the history, boots on ground type crazy stuff that would go on. He's always fun at family gatherings to sit around and he'll tell stories, nonstop about, go and check on a boat and they got a drum set up in the engine room, like stuff that just would never happen now, but man, it did then. And but they definitely he came up and basically helped make Graham Golf, and uh, he was even way up there. I think at the start of Secor, he was involved with the beginnings of that. And so they're very well known. And my father-in-law, Charlie, he came up right behind his dad as, a diesel mechanic for these boats, and he worked his way up into the office. And now he's, I think, senior port captain over all of Secor's boats. And he's proof of how you can work hard and be consistently reliable in your job and what to expect from you as a person. That's really what built both of their reputations. You know, it's not for doing, you know, anything other than being great people who are good at their job, you know. And it's always been inspiring for me. You know, it's one of those things that really keeps me, you know, pushing and trying to keep my feet under me and just do the work, and the rest will take care of itself. Actually, um, Charlie's dad, the guy I was talking about, Charlie Sr., I guess, he came and worked for Basin for a while, doing pretty much, he was going to do what Larry's doing. And the man just is such a hard worker. He ended up, you know, working himself out of the job. I was telling him, you know, you can't go in the engine room, you know, and tear the engine apart. You know, you're like 65, you know, but he was down there doing it, you know, and for health reasons, I don't think I think he decided to, all right, I'll stop before I give myself a heart attack or something. But you know, that opened up the door for Larry, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So last time I saw you in person, Ross, so you were showing some videos. I think you're enrolled your daughters in martial arts, teaching them to
Yes.
fight. Tell me about that. How are they enjoying that?
Oh, they love it for sure. They love it. I love it. I've done it my whole life, the jujitsu and kickboxing. And my cousin Jesse, who used to run the repair division here, he's a black belt in jujitsu, which is just phenomenal in my opinion. If you know jujitsu, you know how hard that is to get. And you know, I always knew I wanted my girls to be in jujitsu because of how I got started in it. I went in there because I had never heard of jujitsu. I went there to do kickboxing. That, you know, this was when I was like 16. I was like, I hadn't even heard of jujitsu. And when I went to sign up, the owner's mom was Steve Miller, a great friend of mine today. She was getting the paperwork together, and I was watching them have an open mat, which is basic for jujitsu, which is basically sparring, but for jujitsu wrestling, you know, trying to submit each other. And I watched this girl, Megan, who works at L&H Printing in town now. People don't, you just don't know who you're messing with, because I watched her tie this guy that was twice as big as me into a knot practically over and over and over, and he couldn't do anything about it. So, you know, I really got fascinated by that. And I said, whatever that is, I want to do it. And so that's how I got started with jujitsu. And I knew just in my experience in jujitsu, my girls, specifically my girls, were going to be in it because it's the only thing that would give me actual peace of mind, knowing that they can take care of themselves. Because jujitsu is not about size, and anyone, I mean, it helps, but you just have to know the, you know, the realm of jujitsu to understand it the way I do. But I always knew I would get them in it, and as soon as they were old enough, I put them in it. My eldest Zoe is just so such a natural with it. I don't know where she gets it from, but especially with the MMA side, they, you know, most people don't put their kids, especially an 8-year-old or 7 at the time, into a sparring match where they punch each other in the face. You know, you don't see that very often, and it's kind of jarring at first. But man, it teaches them so many lessons. It teaches them confidence. It teaches them, you know, that they're tougher than they really think they are. And again, I never missed a chance to pull out the highlight reel for Zoe. You know, when I came and visited y'all the other day, I had to show y'all. And she it's just, you would think watching your kid hit a home run in baseball is super, you know, exciting. I swear I love watching my girls punch other people in the face. Like, not in a, a crazy way, but just like, yeah, you know, like they're just tough. It's just seeing it all in one is hard to describe. It's just, I'm proud, super proud of them, super impressed with them. I couldn't ask for better kids.
Absolutely. Well, Ross, that pretty much does my questions. Do you have anything else to share?
I wish I had more stories. You know, I think one of the craziest stories, you know, that I've had is, you know, in 2019 when we were getting our first second boat, in 20 years. We got the John G. Morgan. I found that boat through Charlie, who led me on to Mr. Ted Morgan, and who owned the boat in an intercoastal city. And great boat. He works with me, fantastic guy. He would be worth, seeing as well. And you know, so 2019, when we got it, I got the boat chartered. I worked the contract with Cooper, and both were month to month. So it was a very safe play for me. I don't like, I didn't want to do what Basin, because we had to fold in with Basin Marine, because like so many people, when the downturn happened, you had all this work and then you didn't. And if you owed on your vessels, there was little you could do. So I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. And so it was the stars aligned for me. And it was really, 2019, 2020 were like the epitome of what I had been working for, boat on contract. We doing this huge Bechtel job, with Canal. Every corner I looked was finally doing great. And I swear I was so nervous the day the contract started, um, January 1st of 2019. I called the boat at like 3:30 in the morning because they were supposed to leave at 6. And I woke up, called them from my bed, hey, trying to get them on the phone. They didn't answer. And I was like, that's not good. And, I waited 30 minutes, called them at 4. They didn't answer. I drove over here. They wouldn't even wake up. So I spent the morning pulling those guys off the boat and taking our guys from the Endeavor, putting them on the boat and saying, I'm gonna get you crew changed, just get started. And it's little things like that that always keep me grateful for the guys we do have here. Because one thing I can remember, everyone on the Endeavor, they were supposed to be getting off. They didn't bat an eye, and that's our long-term crew on the Endeavor, the guys we've worked with for years, and they didn't even question it. They just hopped on the boat and went. And I don't think it was a big deal if we didn't leave that day, but to me it was. I wanted it to go off without a hitch. So that was one of the crazier things that's happened to me, which isn't that crazy. It's probably pretty common in the marine industry, but yeah, that was a big learning experience for me. Man, I think what you're doing is gonna be great. It's gonna get you one. You're like Mr. Oren said. Just watching that episode got me hooked, because I love the industry to begin with, and hearing the stories that he was telling of the start of Ingram and all of the mishaps they had. It's funny how someone from my standpoint, knowing that most people only see success in companies, they don't see what it took to get there. I still was so surprised at how many times they just kind of got into a situation and figured their way out of it. It gave me peace of mind, because I feel like I'll make the same mistakes twice, and just really feel like, why am I not getting it? And it helps knowing you're not alone, and that everybody's, no one's special. Facebook didn't happen overnight. It didn't start off as Facebook. It's just your ability to be resourceful and keep pushing, you know. So I love that episode. And I think cataloging all of the history of the industry, I just think you're gonna uncover some gems for sure. Because I'm not very good at telling stories. I feel like everyone I know that's older, they just are so good at just spouting off some very fun stories to listen to. I know you're gonna find some people that are just like Oren and the guys you've already, interviewed, that are gonna I can't wait to see where it goes.
So Ross, have you heard of the Maritime Throwdown?
Yeah, I heard of it first through Pat Folan with TBS Solutions. I think he forwarded an email to me or something, and he knew I would appreciate it. So I looked at it, and from that point on, I just got really into it, and I really like it. I've always wanted our own crews to be on it. but it just never seems to come to fruition. But I think what they're doing is a perfect way to build, uh, a culture of never-ending improvement, for deckhands and mariners.
Well, Ross, again, I think that pretty much does my questions, man. I do appreciate your time this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And again, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing where you go with this thing. I think you're going to do great things for sure.
Thanks a lot, man. I hope so.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right, see you around.
Bye bye. And if you need any help with it, please let me know. Yeah, I bet you got you got a huge list of people. And I was thinking before today, I was thinking earlier of people I could send you in the direction of.